Hello, I'm Riley, and this is the Diegetic Advancement Podcast. Okay, just a short episode this week. Running out of time with the approaching holiday season, but I still wanted to get something out to keep the consistency up. So I'm just going to jump into a really quick segment on skills, which I covered last week, but I've got some additional thoughts which didn't really fit into last episode, so I'm going to play them out here. So I will give you episode 3, bonus skills. Firstly, I didn't mention the existence or difference between class-based games and skill-based games. The general premise is that in class-based games you pick a template, like fighter or magic user, and there are a set of skills that go along with that, either explicitly or implicitly. Whereas a skill-based game, you pick all the skills your character has. D&D is a good example of a class-based game. Even when you look at editions with extra skills, it's still class-based. Whereas GURPS or Call of Cthulhu are good examples of skill-based games. I tend to prefer class-based games for some of the reasons I discussed last episode. Secondly, if you're going to go with the loose approach to skills that I advocated for, a baseline and consistent mechanic is useful. Whilst I like to keep things open, I don't want everything to be GM fiat or bias, and I want the players to understand the mechanic so that they can exploit it with good play. I won't express any opinions on the benefits of any specific system, but as an example, you could use X and 6 as your mechanic, where you need to roll at least X on a d6 to succeed, and then rule that positive or negative circumstances can constitute a +1 or -1 to the roll. This allows for flexibility and is understandable by the player. Now, what do I mean by baseline? Well, what is a starting X, and what does it mean for your game? Let's look at BX, where the chances to succeed at listening at doors is 1 in 6, or 2 in 6 as a demi-human. 16% chance to succeed is pretty low, but we could say that this is the baseline. Other games might rule 3 in 6 is a better baseline, by default giving characters a 50-50 shot. In that theoretical game, you could say that characters are more skilled or capable. However, there is another aspect of baseline: when to roll. Back to BX, we have a 16% chance to succeed, which either implies that the characters aren't all that capable, or it implies that we only need to roll when it is quite difficult. You should decide on both of these things when coming up with your own baseline. To reiterate, what is the base chance of success, and when should you roll? Lastly, comment on some of the common pitfalls I see that arise from skill systems. When you have skills like Disarm Traps or Persuade, every time you encounter something where that skill would apply, often the character with the best score is pushed forward and they take the action. This can result in certain types of encounters only ever being handled by one player. Characters who have a more well-rounded character are often outshined by specialized characters. I'll admit this isn't solely a system issue, but having more generic skills can alleviate this, as well as ensuring you consider context in deciding the odds. For example, in Blaze in the Dark, players get to choose which skill they use. This allows characters to approach problems in different ways, allowing each character to contribute, or allowing a fighter to convince the local militia to fight the goblins, easier than perhaps a rogue, even if they have a higher charisma. I mentioned that I didn't like highly specific skills which describe an action in the last episode, but to reiterate, skills like disarm traps can lead players to not engage with the world and instead rely on their skills. Again, this isn't solely a system issue, but if there isn't a disarm trap skill, the players are forced to find other ways to solve the problem when they encounter traps. That's it for this bonus skills content. On to the next segment. And to finish us out, as always, I want to shout out some of the content I've consumed this week. I have 2 DCC module reviews that I want to shout out. Firstly, over on the Wasabi Burger YouTube channel, they reviewed Unholy Nights in Lankmar, a Christmas-themed adventure written by Michael Curtis. Brad and Yohai over on Between Two Cans review Jewels of the Carnivex by Harley Stroh. Merc over on the Merc the Meek podcast interviews his daughter about gaming, specifically their recent experiences with Mouse Ritter. Dungeon 23 is wrapping up, and Chicago Wiz has written a blog post about his experience. And finally, Daniel from Bandit's Keep had a really great episode of his original Dungeons and Dragons solo play, showing how he generates a quest for his party, and he also uses Arnisonian dice for some conflict resolution. The links to all of that will be in the show notes. I encourage you to all check that out. Have a great holiday season. Hopefully, you get some time off, spend with family. Hopefully, you get some gaming in. Otherwise, I will talk to you all next week. If anyone is listening, I'd love to hear your feedback. You can reach me via Spotify, SpeakPipe, Discord, or email. Details are in the show notes. Bye for now.